Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 59. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
All right, we're going to break the norm. Me and Jay didn't really do much, and we did go out to the movies. We did see a movie, but we saw It, and that is an episode that is already available. It was our Super Movie Brothers premium review that came out earlier this week. So if you haven't heard that, go check that out for our thoughts on It. So what we're going to do first is we're going to roll right into news, because we actually have back that hasn't been back for a long time. Mm-hmm. We're going to end the show with Trailer Park, because we haven't done Trailer Park in a long time. And
we love it.
Yeah, and I love doing it. We saw some trailers that came before It, so it makes sense to do it.
Yeah, it's fun to do.
So let's just burn through some of these news stories real quick.
Yeah, we have a lot of news to get.
The ones that really don't require any commentary at all.
Exactly.
So, Shia LaBeouf not back for Indiana Jones 5.
Not a surprise.
No shit. Like, is that a surprise to anybody? Is that even news?
I can't believe that was a headline. I was like, what? Was he in contention?
I saw it on like 5 or 6 websites too, and I was like, why is anyone even reporting on this?
I know. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
the worst part
must have been a light day on news or something.
Could you imagine the movie reporter who has to, like, they're like, oh yeah, we need you to type up like 800 words on Shia LaBeouf not coming back, and it's like,
that's a good point. I feel bad for them. Yeah.
Really? And it's like, I would have just wrote the word duh. Like, I would have put the headline and duh really, really long through it. So this one I like. Jared Leto is confused about the Joker origin movie. And a lot of the headlines I'm seeing about this one are extremely misleading. It's not that he's confused about it. It's that he didn't know about it because he's not in the know on it, because it doesn't involve him.
The actors are never involved.
Right. It doesn't involve the DCEU at all, which he is involved with. So he would have no, and even in the interview.
He's not a producer. He's not developing the movie. Like he has no say. He's not in those circles. He's just an actor for hire.
Right. And even in the interviews, even in the interview that he said this in, he didn't even, it wasn't like he was salty. It wasn't like he's like, he was just like, oh, that's cool. I mean, they're doing their thing. I wished them the best, and I hope
he didn't know anything about it. It was just like a different kind of separate thing. I think he thought exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah, they're trying to do something completely different.
Thought it was a cool idea. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, it's he's like, so many people could play this character in so many different ways. He's like, I want to see a different take on it. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. he understands that, you're there in a short amount of time. You're going to do your role, do your service, and hand a baton off to somebody else. That's it.
All right, next one. Apple and Amazon are both bidding for the rights to the James Bond series right now.
This is very interesting.
Well, the distribution rights.
Right, but this is huge.
Yeah, so
first of all, it's expensive as hell.
It's been Sony for the past 4, right?
Yes, I believe.
I believe it's been Sony, and Sony's now dropped them.
Or MGM.
Well, MGM is always the studio, like Metro Goldwyn,
right?
But this is distribution rights.
Right.
This is not production. It's distribution rights, and it was Sony before, but Sony has since dropped it. Well, they didn't drop it. They just didn't renew their contract for it. So it's now Apple and Amazon. And we've talked about, Manchester by the Sea and Gleason and other things that Amazon's been getting into with their distribution.
They're getting big. Yeah. They are.
Now, what I wonder is, does this mean exclusive streaming rights as well? I think most assuredly for Amazon, maybe not so much for Apple. It's not like Apple has their own free movie streaming service.
This is what I'm curious about. Apple has never done this before.
They need to do something.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like they're going to be starting out with some kind of fancy streaming thing too. I don't know. I have no idea exactly what they're going to do. But
someday, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to have a fucking streaming service.
They have the money. They have the means. And they'll probably be on board. And obviously, this is the future. I feel like this is kind of like the wave.
And a lot of studios would sign with Apple,
right?
For streaming rights.
However, Amazon has kind of the street cred right now. They're putting out some, good projects and products.
Right.
So.
And a film that won Best Actor last year, distributed by them.
And they have the balance of streaming and distribution. Right. So.
And it obviously doesn't mean that these films won't be in the theaters. They 100% will be in the theaters. But 3 months after it's done in the theater, it will be streaming on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If Amazon wins, I just think it's interesting because it's kind of the first time that a big name property like this is up for bid for a streaming service like this. I mean, notice Netflix isn't in that. Because Netflix does its one thing. It does its streaming service.
They're very
its exclusive
specific
content. Yeah. It doesn't, as big as Netflix is, it doesn't have the money to be in this dick measuring contest of Apple and Amazon.
I don't think so. Yeah, you're right.
I just think it's interesting. I can't wait to see how this pans out. I want to see who gets the rights. It might not even wind up being any of them. Some other studio might swoop in, and they might even underbid Apple and Amazon. But what they can do distribution wise for theaters and stuff might seem more appetizing to MGM than even Apple or Amazon.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. I mean, obviously, the only thing that's been confirmed is that there's going to be another movie, and Daniel Craig is on board, and that's it. We don't have any other information about the project. More
Star Wars stuff. Rian Johnson has now revealed who The Last Jedi is. I'm just pausing for drama and effect. It's Luke Skywalker. Obviously. It's another one of those obvious things. It's like, we didn't need a new story. You didn't need to clarify this. No. It was okay for me just to go into the theater, and I wouldn't have wondered. I didn't think there was some secret Jedi hiding somewhere.
And why did they need to do that anyway?
Because people were assuming that Rey would be the last Jedi.
Well, that was a big okay.
But if she's not trained, then she's not a Jedi yet. And who's the only one who is a trained Jedi that is left that we know of?
Who is currently in the beginning of the movie The Last Jedi.
All right. I thought it was more interesting if they were like, no, The Last Jedi is Ben Solo.
Unless he dies and passes the baton off to Rey and she's The Last Jedi.
That's a shitstorm. If you kill Han Solo in Force Awakens, Princess Leia in The Last Jedi.
Just saying.
And then you kill Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi too, then the tears, people will be drowning babies in those tears. It'd be fucking terrible. I don't want to live in a world without Luke, Han, and Leia. I'm so sorry.
You're right. That's a good point. I mean, it's that wouldn't be smart.
No, not at all. And then in other news, also involving Star Wars, this one involves Disney. Disney will end their streaming rights and distribution with Netflix, and they will put Star Wars and Marvel films on their own streaming service that is most likely to start in 2019.
Give me back my shit, Netflix.
Oh, I really don't care because I'm going to buy the Disney streaming service. I've already said that, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I probably won't.
It's theirs. They're taking their ball and going home. It's their ball. Let them have it. I mean, they're going to take it.
Well, they have a big ball. And a powerful ball and a very popular ball.
But what still is not clarified is whether the TV shows would end or not, the Netflix original shows or not.
Well, I'm sure they already have some kind of deadline with their contract, and it'll probably run its course.
I think those shows will be running their course at that point. So I think we will be.
Oh yeah, no, they're not going to jump ship or cut those short. I mean, they're successful.
I think they'll be ending.
They're not going to fuck it up. But once it ends, it ends.
All right, and then the biggest other than Shia LaBeouf not being in Indiana Jones 5, is Stephen King's It is going to get a sequel. Jay. New Line Cinema has already agreed. I mean, we talked about it on a review episode that it's not like it's breaking records, but it's the third highest grossing opening weekend this year, and it was the highest grossing Thursday movie opening this year so far.
And this isn't a spoiler, but at the very end it says It Part 1. I mean, this is like, it's,
So, yeah,
I mean, they already implied that there's going to be a sequel.
It says end of chapter 1.
Or end of, yeah thank you. So,
which is exactly what me and you were pondering before we saw the movie. We're like, oh, well, we know that it's the story of older, younger, and stuff.
It was perfect.
I liked it. It wasn't disjointed. We weren't bouncing back around. It was one contained story here.
And the saddest part is, though, we're not going to see these kids again.
You might get some flashbacks
because they were so good.
Yeah,
and you guys can.
But they need to film those quick before these kids start aging too quickly.
Exactly, and they're young. They all are actually like kids. They're all.
Well, I mean, the one kid Richie's from Stranger Things. No,
I know, but all the newcomers, the girl, so they're 14, 15-year-olds.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool, and they're all unknowns, and they're making it big now.
So yeah, that's another big duh in there. All right, Jay, let's start going through some of these directing announcements before we get to the big one that dropped just after we finished recording last week. So Drew Goddard is to direct X-Force, which will star Cable and Deadpool.
Well, this is interesting because I did not know this, and he has some interesting properties underneath his belt as far as producing, writing, that kind of thing, but he doesn't have many directing credits. I'm a little worried by that, a little bit, but The Cabin in the Woods you loved, and I liked it until the final act, but
I'm very down for the tone that they're putting forward for X-Force, especially with Cabin in the Woods being under his belt already. Cabin in the Woods was
he could be brilliant as a director.
But the best part is it takes all the best elements of horror and it still keeps them, and it keeps them there, and they're still suspenseful, and they're still gory, and they're still cool to look at, just like any mainstream horror movie would be. And then all the comedy elements are mixed in, and it's so well because you have that division of what's of the horror above and the comedy below, and then the two worlds mix when they come to, and it just does it so well. And I feel like they're gonna have to do the same type of thing with a character like Cable, a character like Deadpool, and they're on this
he
team,
knows how to balance it.
This team of mutants. Yeah, I think you'll have, obviously you don't want Deadpool always being with the team. You want to see him off doing his own thing. You want to see Cable leading the team, doing their military thing, doing their mutant thing, doing their saving the world thing. And then when Deadpool comes back in, it adds that level of chaos that comes with Deadpool into the rest of it, and it just makes it fun. I think it's a good marriage. I think that as long as he stays the director for this project, and as long as he sees it through to the end, and they don't wind up doing a ton of reshoots, script rewrites, and all this other shit, I think you're going to have
the way he's involved with most properties, I'm sure he's going to be a producer.
You know what would be awesome? And this probably
and a co-writer probably.
This won't happen because we know that he's worked with Joss Whedon already with Cabin in the Woods. It'd be great if Joss Whedon, who has written X-Men before, he wrote the amazing run of X-Men Gifted, but it won't happen because he's already signed up with DCEU. He's going to be busy in that camp for a long time. He won't have the time to get away to do any writing credit on X-Force, but I would love to see Joss Whedon doing this, with Goddard again. But
okay.
All right, Jay, some more directing news that we got that came out. This is Gavin O'Connor to write and direct Suicide Squad 2. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Because O'Connor, I'm not a big fan of.
Well, I kind of am. I mean, I really like Warrior a lot. I love it, actually. And The Accountant I liked a lot. That was a surprise for me last year. I actually liked that movie.
Warrior is the only one of his films that I really do like. I mean, Miracle is an okay film. It's schmaltzy as all get out, but it's Disney, and it's one of his first directing roles.
Did you see Pride and Glory?
I hated that
with
movie.
Edward Norton and Colin Farrell.
I disliked that movie.
Yeah, it was very forgettable.
I disliked The Accountant too. I didn't think The Accountant was too fantastic either.
I liked it.
I thought Warrior was great, but I think it was the performances that made Warrior great. I think it was Edgerton. I think it was Hardy and Nick Nolte that made that movie.
I would have to revisit that to see how the directing is.
There's not anything spectacular.
I don't remember
coming from the director's seat. I think what came from it was three really, really good performances, and it's none of their best. It might be one of Nick Nolte's best performances, but it's not Tom Hardy's best performance, and it's not even Joel Edgerton's best performance. But they're both really, really good in it.
Yeah,
and I think that's what makes Warrior so much. But I'm not entirely sure that he's really going to be the one to.
Are you surprised though?
No, because he's the exact type of caliber director that they're going to want to go for after Ayer's shit.
That's exactly what I was thinking, and it makes sense. and he has enough films under his belt that are kind of similar in tone.
Right. He doesn't come with a high paycheck.
Not at all. No.
He has
but enough credentials with enough big stars where
But he's never done anything with a budget quite like this. I think you do Suicide Squad and you reduce that budget. I think you reduce that budget hard. If it was $250 million to make the first one,
is, I thought that was like a smaller budget to begin with anyway, but it wasn't.
No, it was like $250, I think.
That's extremely high.
The original Suicide Squad
for a Suicide Squad,
maybe $200 million. Either way,
it does not need to be that high.
It should be
125.
Right,
125 should be comfortable.
Right,
scale it down, but still have some good, production values and effects and CGI if you need it somewhere. But that's plenty. That's plenty. Even with these big stars.
I'm not dissatisfied with this directing choice, but that might be because there's nothing that holds me to this. Like I have no expectation for this. You could have given it to.
We don't personally care whatsoever about this.
Someone will talk about later. You could have given it to Eli Roth, and I would have been like, "Who fucking cares?"
Which actually might be even more interesting.
Who fucking cares? Don't care. I think making it rated R would help it, though.
It would definitely help it. I think they need to do something like that. They need to do a good change up with that. And also, they're not even certain about shooting. Will Smith is booked up quite a while, like all the way till like next year. And that's going to be questionable as far as when they're going to start shooting this property.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's going to be a long time until we see the sequel anyway, regardless.
This goes back into like when I was talking 2 weeks ago, when I was like, there's like over 20 movies planned. This is another one I think I forgot to mention.
It probably won't come out until 2020.
It's so long.
I know, but like seriously,
4.5 years, like 4 years after the original.
Maybe late 2019.
I doubt it.
But I don't know.
It's not one they're in a rush to do. I think again, this comes back to let's see how the rest of the DCEU starts panning out before we start slapping a whole bunch of movies out there and putting money towards them.
If they go ahead and do a good job with Aquaman and Wonder Woman and the Batman, that's huge right there. Those are three huge, surefire, successful, financially at least, movies under their belt.
All right, Jay, you ready for the last story? Colin Trevorrow is out as the episode 9 director.
Oh, baby.
I'm not surprised.
No,
I didn't.
Surprised. Not surprised.
And then there's some follow-up stories to this.
There's a lot of variables with this story.
Right. Vulture had had someone do an interview with them. They remained nameless, and they said the reason was because of personality conflicts, but mainly it, according to this unnamed source, unnamed source, so always take that with a grain of salt, that it was Colin Trevorrow's ego that got in his own way. And apparently it was the same thing with Universal and Jurassic World. He had a huge.
Where is this ego coming from? Like, come on.
It's one of those things that apparently that was reportedly another issue that was going on with Lord and Miller, and this unnamed source also points the finger a little bit at Kathleen Kennedy, who says she runs an extremely tight ship, and she doesn't just want to work.
I
with
respect that,
but she doesn't just want to work with somebody. She wants to be friends with somebody. Like she wants to believe in them and them to believe in her. Right. And if they don't click, she doesn't mind saying goodbye.
I respect that. I really do. I mean, a lot of people think that she's a bitch and she might have too much power of this property or just of these properties in general. And I know some people, have different views on that. I don't know what your views are, but I personally feel like she delivered 2 good films.
Right.
By doing what she's doing. Don't fuck that up. Let her keep doing what she's doing. I mean, if she really thinks that
2 good films, but are they 2 great films, Jay? I really enjoyed Rogue One. I really enjoyed it. I'm not as in love with The Force Awakens as I am with any other Star Wars film. But prequels outside.
But Dave, what she fixed with Rogue One was the best part of Rogue One.
That's true. I mean, I think so.
Right? So
I think so. And that's another thing. We already know that Disney had, they said goodbye to Gareth Edwards.
Yes.
And they brought in
Tony Gilroy
for the reshoots to film the last third of the film. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter at what point in the process you rub her the wrong way, she'll kick you out. So don't go rubbing Kathleen Kennedy's rhubarb.
It's kind of astonishing, actually. And I give her a lot of credit. I mean, it's just something that you don't really see, but you're seeing a lot more of it lately. I feel like more in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But You know,
In one way, I'm like, that's awesome.
But-
if the ego thing is true, that's awesome. Keeping those big egos in check.
but directors have to have that kind of ego. They have to have some kind of.
Yeah.
That's like their personalities. That you have to have that in order to direct a fucking movie. It's hard to do.
There were even stories of J.J. Abrams being reined in at times. He was never outright fired.
No, I can see that.
But him and Kasdan, they did bring in a third writer to come in while in their writing sessions and rewrite a lot of their stuff. And apparently that was a hard pill for J.J. Abrams to swallow. So
Sure.
It's a tough thing.
Well, one thing, JJ has a lot of power in Hollywood for many different reasons, but also he's a fanboy. He loves Star Wars.
He also comes from the camp that she comes from. He comes from the Spielberg camp, and so does Kathleen Kennedy.
Right.
And I think let's get
you don't fuck around with that camp.
Right. So
as we see with Shia LaBeouf.
so let's get in with let's just run through some people that we would like to. Me and you have our joy. We have our joy pick, the one that me and you knows will never happen, but that's like our pie in the sky idea that we would like to have, and we said it on Twitter, but we'll say it again here. But let's go with some realistic ones right off the bat. I think first off the bat is you double down on Johnson. If Kathleen Kennedy likes Rian Johnson, keep Rian Johnson on. Let's get him doing another one.
That's my go-to pick.
Especially, I think they'll wait to see how Last Jedi turns out before they announce that. But if Last Jedi, obviously, budget-wise, it'll be a hit. They're going to wait to see what critics and fans really say in the couple weeks afterwards to see whether you double down on Rian Johnson or not. But that's the safest answer. That's the that's the real easy answer. Other ones that I'm thinking of are also come from that Amblin, Paramount Pictures, that same camp as Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy. Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah.
He's along the lines of Ron Howard, who also came from that camp, and he comes in and he's not big ego. He's just going to be there we know he's comfortable with CGI, big action set pieces, stuff like that.
I don't feel him for this at all.
No.
No.
But he would come in and he would do what's told. He would do what he's
He
told.
would, but he brings this air of staleness now to the screen, and ever so slightly staleness to the screen. I think.
Yeah, because he
lately.
sucked ever since Forrest Gump.
Well, I don't agree with that, but
Were you just dying for another Polar Express?
I don't like the Polar Express. You know that. But I like Flight, and I kind of liked Allied. It just missed its mark. I understood what he was trying to do, but whatever. But I really like Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams. Bring him back, maybe. He has experience with the properties.
Last one from that camp, Joe Johnston, director of Captain America, First Avenger, and the absolutely terrible Jurassic Park 3, and he also did The Rocketeer. So
That's
he comes.
That's an interesting choice. I can see him doing a Star Wars film down the line.
100%
Down the line, at least.
100% a shooter. All he is.
Yeah.
He's literally coming in there to shoot what they want him to shoot in the way that they want him to shoot it. That's all he would be, because that's all Joe Johnston really is. He's not, he's not, no offense.
He's not a visionary. No.
Exactly. All right, Jay, let's run through some other ones. I've heard some people say Michelle McLaren.
Who was that?
She is a Game of Thrones director.
Interesting.
Yeah. I kind of like that, although you're not going to take her from TV and this be her first big major motion picture.
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't mind these
Marvel
choices.
would do that, but Kathleen Kennedy wouldn't.
I don't mind these choices if they're the standalone movies, but when it comes to the episodes,
right,
you don't fuck with the episodes.
What about Brad Bird?
That's a possibility.
I like Brad Bird.
I like Brad Bird's choice.
Mission Impossible 3 is my favorite Mission Impossible. The Incredibles is one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite animated movies, but you don't like that, so, whatever.
But Tomorrowland was a huge flop, critically and financially.
True.
But and that could have just been one of those things where it wasn't so much his fault. I don't know. I only saw parts of the movie. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Here's a pie in the sky one now. Matt Reeves. Which, if he was offered a Star Wars film, that would assuredly mean he leaves the Batman production, because he would have to get started very soon on the pre-production for Episode 9. So they would literally be stealing him away from the DCEU if it were to be Matt Reeves. It won't be.
No.
100% believe me, it will not be. Although they are saying that Episode 9 is one of the darkest, it will be the darkest toned one of this series. And Matt
he
Reeves
knows how to balance
He would
darkness.
be the perfect one for that. All right, what about Ryan Coogler, director of Creed?
Well, not just that, but Black Panther. I mean, Black Panther looks fucking amazing. So I'm all on board with that. I mean, especially down the line. I want to see him in that world for sure.
I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, Justin Lin, the guy who did some of the Fast and Furious movies." Fuck no.
Fuck
no. Could you just see like
I almost wanted to slap you for saying that.
Yeah, no, that is not my pick. I've just seen a lot of people say Justin Lin out there. Absolutely not. All right, Jay, it's just time for our pie in the sky one. Alex Garland, director of Ex Machina, writer of Dread 3D. What do you think?
I mean, I love the guy. I really do.
He was also a writer on 28 Days Later. He was a writer on Sunshine. Obviously, this is another guy
I'm a huge fan.
Who you would love to see do a spin-off one. You wouldn't love to see do an episodic one, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit beyond him so far.
100%.
At least right now.
It was just another
career.
way for us to talk about Ex Machina one more time.
he's an amazing talent, and I think he's going to be huge for many years to come. And I'm excited to see what he does next and down the line. But
Annihilation, that's coming out in 2018. That's him.
Right, that is true. And but we don't know anything about it yet.
Well, I mean, we know it's got Jennifer Jason Leigh. We know it's got Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac in it, and we know
great cast.
We know a brief synopsis for it. It's a biologist signs up for a dangerous secret expedition where the laws of nature no longer apply. So
interesting.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, and I think it's going to be much in the tone that Ex Machina was, which is very far from the tone of Star Wars. But what I loved about Ex Machina that would work so well is just the blending of CGI, just the way it was so seamlessly blended and everything, used so minimalistically,
right.
Only when needed and everything like that. That's just our pie in the sky one. So reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know who you think should be the new director for Star Wars Episode 9. And of course, we'll continue following this and bringing you like little tidbits here and there, and our thoughts on it as it goes through. We'll just have to wait and see. So real quick, editor's note here. Obviously, we now know who the director of Episode 9 is. It was announced just after me and Jay recorded that segment. It was J.J. Abrams, so Jay was correct in saying that it's very likely that he would come back. I'm a little bit surprised by it. I didn't think he had such a great time doing it. It seemed like there was maybe some turmoil behind the scenes, having someone come in and rewrite him and Kasdan's script. But ultimately, it's a fine choice. It's not a great choice, but it's a fine choice. We don't know how Rian Johnson, would have done with it because we haven't even seen how he's done with Episode 8 yet. However, there are two sides of the camp. Some people feel that J.J. Abrams recycled his story for The Force Awakens, and they don't want to see more teddy bears destroying the First Order like they got in Return of the Jedi. That may not be the case here. They may have learned from that mistake. He may be more willing to take risks now that he already has one Star Wars under his belt. There's two ways to come at this. Yes, J.J. Abrams is a director who does play on nostalgia. He very much is. He did it with Star Trek Into Darkness. He recycled a story that was already told. It's the most famous Star Trek story, The Wrath of Khan. And he even lies to the audience, telling them that no, it's not going to be anything like that. And it turned out it absolutely was everything just like that. He just changed a few key plot points. But then when he struck out to do his own thing in Star Trek, when they wrote an original Star Trek story, and it wasn't so good. Star Trek Beyond, while I really enjoyed it, some people didn't enjoy it at all. So my thoughts on it are, I'm 6 of one, half dozen of another. J.J. Abrams, fine choice. I really don't care how it turns out. I just think that we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what we are left with after Episode 8. They might not even be able to do any type of recycled story, and he might be more confident to go and tell a completely original story at this point. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so coming up next, we're going to get into Jay's Indie Corner. Jay's got an indie little ditty that he's going to bring up for you, and I'm going to have a fake synopsis ready to give you. So just sit back, pour yourself a bourbon neat, and get ready to ride Jay's ironic mustache in Jay's Indie Corner. welcome back to Jay's Indie Corner. I hope your nether regions are perfectly tickled from Jay's ironic mustache and you're ready and creamy moist. I tried to do it so
I was
seriously.
cracking up but just by the tickling part. I'm like, tickling.
So, Jay,
let's have a tickle fight.
not everyone's nice and moist.
Moist.
Why don't you go ahead and let us know the
It's
name?
like a butterscotch crimpet.
Why don't you just let us know the name of your indie film this week?
All right. This is a good raw indie film I have for you.
Okay.
21 grams.
All right. 21 grams. The fake synopsis for it is the story of two young men who grew up together on the same block. One becomes a detective while the other one becomes a drug dealer and they're both the age of 21. So, well, I mean, one's a cop. I don't know, a detective. Who cares?
Sure.
But
Okay.
the whole point is 21 grams of cocaine goes missing from an evidence locker after his friend has been locked up, and he thinks that his friend knows something about it. So he takes him out of the holding cell, and he thinks that he knows who took this 21 grams on the streets, and he takes him out in the streets to find it. Now,
What if he snorted it all?
so who would be in these two roles? And now this is a comedy. It's a comedy. It's kind of like 48 Hours or Another 48 Hours, like something along those lines. So what I'm thinking is you want to get people who are young. So I'm thinking Tom Holland as the straight cut guy.
Okay.
And Jay, this wouldn't be a good movie by any stretch. So when I say the next name, take it with a huge grain of salt. Jaden Smith.
Oh, my Lord.
So it's a terrible comedy starring Tom Holland and Jaden Smith.
I can weirdly see it, though.
Yeah,
You know?
and they hit the streets looking for this 21 grams of missing cocaine, which the best part is 21 grams of missing cocaine is like one tiny little baguette.
I know. That's the best part
Notice I
about
didn't
it.
say kilograms.
It's like
It's a tiny little baguette.
it's like a good night, and that's it. Like maybe a good night of blow for one person, and that's it.
That's right, and there can be scenes where they hit the clubs, they hit the drug scenes, and of course they're gonna run afoul of a major league drug lord, and it turns out he only stole 21 grams of cocaine was because his calling card, his signature was on it, and he wanted to make sure that the cops didn't get a hold of that and trace it back to him.
That makes sense,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
and it's good, and the drug dealer is played by Bob Odenkirk.
That's perfect.
Because why not?
Oh my God. As a flaming one. He's flaming, right?
You mean homosexual?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want,
Like closeted, just like Boondock Saints, Willem Dafoe.
okay. If
Right?
you want him to be, sure.
Little on the flair side like that. I like that. I like that.
All right.
You know,
There you go. All right, Jay.
stretching his acting chops.
Please tell us how 21 grams has some sort of pedophilia in it, since that's where you've been going the past like 6 weeks.
Well, no. No. This is very mature. This is 2003's 21 grams.
Talk about mature. This is like one of the few films you see Naomi Watts' boobies in.
Like 2-inch long nipples.
Oh my God, yeah. Remember being
There's one camera angle. It's like, whoa, holy.
Remember being disappointed, and I was just like, wow.
Wow. Yeah, they're at her age too. They're full and. God.
Yo, you like
I can't believe Liev Schreiber just
you like 2-inch long nipples?
No,
Oh,
God, no.
It scares me.
No. Hers were maxed out for me. That's perfect. That's good.
Maxed out.
But I can't go any longer than that. So this is directed by Alejandro Gonzalez. He is a great director. He did last year's Revenant, or 2015's Revenant, and then Birdman, obviously, the year before, and also did Babel and Beautiful. So he's got a couple films that he's done, I think, with Javier Bardem.
Got a fake synopsis ready for Babel anytime you want.
He has a style, as you can tell, I think. Very raw, very realistic, very dramatic. And this is no different. This is a really intertwining, kind of like a Memento style thing, not backwards, but it's like a very intertwined story that follows three central characters played by Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, and Naomi Watts. So
Well, the way you say her name, Naomi.
Naomi.
I thought it was Naomi. Naomi Watts.
Whatever.
Naomi, because it's spelled Naomi, right?
Isn't that how they're all spelled mostly?
But it's not Naomi. That would be Ni.
Did I say Naomi or
You
Naomi?
said no. You said Naomi.
Naomi. Oh.
Naomi.
Oh, okay.
It's Naomi Watts.
Yeah. All right. God damn! I'm taking the wind out of my sails.
I know. Sorry.
I liked it.
She's the modern Nicole Kidman.
Right. So Benicio del Toro, you see him as a reformed, felon. He was a bad guy. He, ex-con, did a lot of bad shit, went to jail, reformed into like religion heavily. His Christian faith, he helps out with the community and stuff like that, and addicts and such. He's just trying to get himself on a straight and narrow and stay clean, stay focused. And
so Benicio del Toro playing himself.
Probably, yes. But you can see like the inner turmoil within him. Like, he's fighting it, and it actually bleeds into his family household as well.
Which is what they say about, addicts. You're always an addict. You're never not an addict. You're always still addicted.
Right.
It's whether you can defeat, your urges, your cravings.
And you see that within him throughout the film. And then you also have Sean Penn, who is just
also
like
a recovering addict.
And also a recovering addict, but he's like an ailing, like, professor type guy. He has a kind of a loveless marriage or relationship with this female that he's with, and she's in love with him, but like he's just obviously not.
Why is she a female? Everything's male and female to you. You bring things down to the most animalistic like nature.
Well,
he's a male, she's a female. They don't do it anymore, so he's unhappy. So he's gonna sleep with Naomi Watts.
Well, okay, so that's where I don't want to. That's the thing. I don't want to. This is tricky to explain because I don't want to spoil anything. But these stories intertwine in a sad way.
Don't want to spoil anything for this movie from 2005.
Naomi Watts, she has like a nice middle class kind of life with a husband, young kids, and there's a tragic accident that happens that affects every single of these three characters. And other than that, I think I gotta just say go see the movie because I don't want to spoil anything.
It doesn't spoil anything to say that 21 grams is what they attribute the weight of the soul to be.
Correct. The moment that someone dies,
21 grams.
Lose that.
Yeah, 21 grams.
Which I love.
Leaves the body.
I love that little fun fact.
It's probably urine, but
you could feces.
Yeah, you could say soul. It's probably poo poo.
Yeah.
Or pee pee leaving the body.
Yeah, probably actually, to be honest. But either way, it's a really strong movie. I love it. It's one of those raw indie movies that makes me happy that I'm an indie lover. It's just one of those films that I really, really enjoyed. I thought they were powerhouse performances, and I thought it was
powerhouse.
It really, really was
powerhouse performances. I remember seeing this movie. I saw it twice. I think I was definitely working at Blockbuster when it came out, so I remember seeing it then. I remember enjoying it. Seeing it a second time, found it to be pretty preachy, pretty hoity-toity. Like a good indie film is, I suppose. But one thing I do remember is there's no real. I mean, there's sex in it, but there's no real degrading sex. There's nothing that is. There's nothing that is gratuitous. There's nothing that is. There's no incest. There's no period blood. There is no pedophilia whatsoever. So what I'm saying is, congratulations, Jay. Your streak is broken.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so happy for you.
Give it a week or two.
Yeah, give it a week or two until you find something that's children being ball gagged in a basement or something. I don't know.
God,
you're a terrible.
That came
person.
out of your mind. Stop it.
All right, so coming up next, me and Jay are going to continue our September beer reviews for Oktoberfest beers, and we also have another favorite drunk movie scene to do with you. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the beer segment. So I hope you guys are enjoying what we did last week, where we talk about a drunk movie clip and then insert some of the clip. We're doing the same exact thing this week. And this week, I'm just going to stick a little bit with the theme that we had last week, where it was a comedy, a very funny scene. This one's another funny scene, Jay. I'm talking about Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank. You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy. It hits your lips and it tastes so good.
What's his lips? It tastes so good.
Snoop.
But the funny thing is, like, I've said it before, like many times before, like if I haven't had a drink in a while and I take that first sip of beer, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Once it hits the lips, it's so fucking good.
We're going streaking. We're, of course, talking about Will Ferrell's character, Frank the Tank, in Old School.
Old School.
And the scene that we're talking about is, you know, he's a domestic man. And that's what I love about this scene, is that he is the modern domestic man, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we got a big day planned tomorrow, so I'm not going to drink. You know, we're going to go to Home Depot.
Yeah. And the college kids are staring at him like, what the fuck?
They eventually convince him to do a beer bong, and several beer bongs later, he is absolutely smashed. And then he strips down naked, gets on the stage with
interrupts Snoop Dogg. Yeah.
Interrupts Snoop Dogg.
Uh-huh.
And my favorite is when he trips, and then he trips and he gets up backwards, so his ass cheeks are spread out to everybody.
And I'm sure it's very hairy.
Yes. And then he screams, "We're going streaking!" And he tries to get everyone to go streaking from the party through the quad.
And he runs right through the crowd, and off he goes all by his lonesome.
And then he meets
Nobody else
wife.
follows him.
I love when he gets in the car with his wife, and his wife's friend looks at him and goes, "A little cold out there, huh, Frankie?"
Just as long as you promise to take it easy, you know?
What do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean. You've come a long way since Frank the Tank, and we don't want him coming back now, do we?
Okay, anyway, yo, man, come hit this right here. You need to hit this.
Oh, yeah.
Hit that.
No, I appreciate it, but I told my wife I wouldn't drink tonight. Besides, I got a big day tomorrow. But you guys have a great time.
A big day. You doing what?
Well, actually, pretty nice little Saturday. We're gonna go to Home Depot. Okay, you know what? Give me that thing. Yeah, I'll do one.
We gonna do what? We gonna do one. Do you, baby? Oh! That's a talented man right there. Woo! That's what I'm talking.
Do it up again.
We want it.
It's so good. Once it hits your lips, it's so good. You know it. Money. Money take, but we're going streaking. Yeah. No, I'm sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody! Come on, Snoop a loop, No, it's cool. I'm cool. Bring your green hat. Let's go. Come on, everybody, we're going. Here we go.
Man, put the music back on. Let's get the party back cracking up in here, man.
That is this is one of like the all-time like favorite like of that era, like comedies from that era, like
sure.
like that Wedding Crashers type era and stuff like that.
Oh, and it still holds up. It's a classic. I mean,
absolutely.
It really is.
I remember them talking about there was rumors that there was going to be a sequel where there was a rival middle-aged crowd frat that they were going to go up against, and in that frat was going to be obviously like friends of theirs, like in real life. It was going to be like Jack Black,
sure,
Owen Wilson,
it would be great,
and I believe Ben Stiller. It was going to be like those three versus the other three versus Will Ferrell, Luke Wilson, and Vince Vaughn.
Be amazing,
right? I don't, but it's too late now, right? Like you can't do that now. They're all way too old at this point.
Yes, and honestly, I feel like it'd be too late. You know, it'd be like something like Zoolander coming back. You know, like how that is. Like, did we really want a Zoolander 2? No.
And
it's a fine comedy. It's, you know, whatever the first one, and
it would be
that's
the exact same problem that like Anchorman 2 had, where it's just been too long.
It's just been
far too long. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that clip that we played there.
It's great.
All right, so we're going to continue our beer reviews for the month of September. We're doing all of our Oktoberfest, and this week we have two of the biggest microbreweries that are out there in America. We have I have the Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and Jay has the Yuengling Oktoberfest. So I'm going to go first. The Sam Adams Oktoberfest is really, really dark amber in color, like very dark. And it doesn't have any of those hoppy notes that the Sierra Nevada one had from last week. This one is it's lightly malt flavor with a very sweet note on the back end, like very, very, very sweet, heavy in sugar.
Yeah, after a while, you just don't want to drink them anymore. Like I tend to get them every once in a while to mix it up because I usually drink the regular original Yuengling lager a lot out at the bar sometimes as a go-to beer. And in the fall season, I do enjoy the Oktoberfest, and Sam Adams is usually the only one on tap a lot of times. And I get it every once in a while, but I don't usually get a second one, or definitely not a third.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong.
You get spent with it.
I'm going to be giving it probably a 3. But it's as far as Oktoberfest go. I mean, it's better than the ones we had the first week. I wasn't crazy about any of those on the first week that we did the Oktoberfest ones, but this one I enjoy. I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay. My Yuengling is the Oktoberfest, and I have never had this before somehow. And I'm a Yuengling fan. So I'm a little disappointed, though, by it. I mean, it's not as dark as Sam Adams. It's a good amber color, but it has a weak nose. It's not as strong as a smell as the Sam Adams has, but it's kind of bitter, and it has a really like a burning, like a weird taste and feel in your mouth, on your tongue, and it doesn't. You can't really describe exactly. But
like all Yuengling beers, it tastes like slightly altered Yuengling lager.
Yeah, it just
all their beers
seems like
are
it's
that
like
way.
an underdeveloped Oktoberfest of sorts. You know, like that's really what it is. And it's a little higher than normal Yuenglings. It's 5.45 alcohol by volume, but it's just it doesn't work. I think they did it, on the cheap really quickly. It's a short-term seasonal beer, I think, for them, and they don't really care.
No, I think they spend some time on it, and that's what's really sad.
I don't know.
About it.
I mean, it definitely does not work for me.
They're not a creative brewery, where Sam Adams comes out with.
Well, they're old school. They're the oldest brewery in the country,
yeah.
So they're probably very old-fashioned. They don't want to mix things up too much.
Right. They're very even though Sam Adams is as big as Yuengling is, and Yuengling, they're like comparable to each other with the Boston Lager and the Yuengling Lager and stuff like that being their highest selling beers. Yuengling is nowhere near as experimental as Sam Adams will get. Sam Adams has been trying to break into the craft beer market, and they've done a pretty good job. Their Rebel IPAs are pretty good. I really liked the Hopscape that they came out with this year. So they have some decent.
It's
stuff.
I love their the Natty Light of Oktoberfest,
right? but they have those seasonal packs that come out that I really enjoy. Yuengling doesn't do anything like that,
No.
Like you can count the amount of the type of beers Yuengling has on one hand. I think last year or 2 years ago they came out with the Yuengling IPL, the Imperial Pale Lager, which is my favorite Yuengling beer that they do, but it still tastes like Yuengling Lager slightly hopped. And Yuengling Lager is not bad. I'm not saying it's bad.
And maybe they intend to do that. Maybe that's their thing. They want to have that kind of like baseline lager.
Yeah, it's their
taste.
signature,
right. And
they don't want to. They are the everyman's beer. So where Sam Adams might be trying to not break into, but be part of that craft beer market, Yuengling isn't. Yuengling is trying to be your everyman's beer, and
absolutely,
and they don't want to scare away their everyman's beer customers by doing things that are too experimental, because they
label always stays the same. Like they don't alter anything, they don't change anything, they don't do any kind of crazy marketing or advertising. And I respect that. I mean, that's fine. But you do get fatigued with the beer because it's not the greatest, obviously, but it's just it's a go-to little everyman beer, as Dave said.
All right, so coming up.
Oh, I didn't get my grade.
What's your grade?
Probably boy, a 2.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty low. I
it's
would go
pretty
lower
low.
than that. I don't like the Yuengling Oktoberfest at all. So I was glad you were like, "Oh, I never had it. I'll take it." I was like, "Good. I don't like it."
Yeah, I never had it. I was definitely curious about it, but I am, unsatisfied. It's disappointing.
All right, so coming up next, me and Jay are going to be getting into Trailer Park. We got 3 movies with trailers that just dropped. One of them is the remake of Death Wish.
Yes.
The other one is me and Lauren had to count today, the 7th Saw, Jigsaw. And then the last one is the 3rd trailer for Blade Runner 2049. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Trailer Park. All right, Jay, let's get these 2 stinkers out of the way first.
Yeah, let's just bust right through it.
All right, so Jigsaw. If you want
Hey,
to
look, there's probably a lot of listeners of ours that love this franchise.
Well, first off, the reason I say it like that, like Jigsaw, is that's the way Dominic West said it when he played Jigsaw in Punisher Warzone. I'm Jigsaw.
Now the game's simple. Best ones are. You want mercy? Play by the rules.
Any identification on the victim?
Puzzle piece.
But Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years.
It's not him. Can't be.
No, it's not creepy at all.
Anyway, Jigsaw is obviously the main character, the one committing all the murders in the previous Saw series. Now he's getting his own film, I guess, even though they're all about him. They just wanted to rebrand it, I suspect.
Yeah, pretty much.
They didn't want to make this Saw 7 or Saw 8, whatever it is. So they're going to call it Jigsaw. The trailer teases you.
Well, the trailer is a little different than the previous Saw films.
It seems it. So, it starts off with reminding us that Jigsaw, the character, has been dead. And if I remember right, he's been dead since like 3. Since Saw 3 or Saw 4 he died. And I don't remember.
I gave up on this franchise a long time ago. You still watch them all just because.
I haven't watched them all. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you have. Okay.
I watched up to 5, I think. I stopped going to the movies after 2, though. But I watched them all at home video or in some various way. But me and Lauren were talking about it after we saw it, and we couldn't figure out what number in the series this is. And she had to look it up. And I was like, I remember 5. I think 5 is the last one. She goes, nope, there's a 6 and 7. And I was like, okay. And 7 was the Saw 3D. So that was in 2010. So we haven't had
the year
one.
of Avatar, probably.
Well, we haven't had one in a while. So
sure.
It's not long dormant, but it's dormant enough that they might find some success with it. I think that's what they're hoping for. Twisted Pictures hasn't really been in
the picture
picture a lot lately. So I think this is them trying to come back maybe a little bit. They also want to jump in on the hype of. They want to get into that Halloween crowd because they used to dominate Halloween. And even the end of this trailer says, he's back to take Halloween.
Oh, yeah. No, they put their cards on the table in this trailer. I mean, they laid everything out. And they showed a lot.
Halloween for the past 5 years or so has been ruled by Insidious. The Insidious franchise, which we did get a trailer for Insidious, The Lost Key. I'm not going to talk about that one because I'm done with that franchise as well. I liked Insidious 1. Insidious 2 was okay. I saw Insidious 3. I don't remember much about it. I remember there being something about a girl being possessed. But all I remember is that the main character, the main character they're using now, the medium woman, she died like way back in like 1. She died like Insidious 1, and she's still the main character now. And I can never figure out, she's still alive, but she's dead? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. Did she die and then come back? Is she resurrected? What's going on? Is this a prequel? And I stopped trying to figure it out, and I stopped trying to care. It's just whatever. It's a horror movie that I might watch. Right. Nowhere near as interesting as the Conjuring series. And Jigsaw looks exactly like every other Saw that's come before it.
It looks a little bit more grander, it has a little bit more like set pieces, I think, and like a little bit more.
When you get into like Saw,
does it? Okay. Like, see, I completely gave up on this franchise. Like really, but I just thought this trailer showed a lot, and the musical tone was terrible. This is not my kind of movie, obviously. I mean, I'm not a horror person, especially not this kind of horror, and it is just stupid to me. I just don't like it at all.
Jay, I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna go to theaters to see it, but I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it.
Okay.
I'm gonna check it out.
I can't wait to hear from you.
I want to see how Jigsaw comes back. I really hated how this trailer ended though, with the the puppet that is riding the tricycle comes riding in, and then the guy's like sitting there with his arms folded, and he's like, "Oh, that's not creepy at all."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh."
It's so self-aware.
Yeah,
that's how I took it. It's like, oh, come on. No.
Let's talk about something that I don't think is self-aware. I'm not even sure that it even has its finger on the pulse of society at all. We're going to talk about Death Wish, the 2017 remake of the Bronson classic.
Who else was there? I don't know anything else.
I believe you, Joe.
So you're not going to kill me?
No. Jack is. You got caught in some crossfire?
The ice cream man done it.
The ice cream man?
Can't walk to school if you don't work for him.
Who are you? Your last customer.
Eli Roth has his hands on this property now.
Written and directed by Eli Roth.
Yes, guys. So we recently talked about Eli, as you guys know. And
you have a theory about Eli? He's a rich kid who just likes to torture porn films?
He just has a lot of Hollywood friends, and he has a little bit of power and money behind him, and he's a fetish filmmaker, straight up, and that's it. And he just makes shit movies. And they are obviously fetish filmmaking exercises, and a lot of them are very graphic in violence and sometimes in sexual nature. And this one is just a straight up cliche Bruce Willis vehicle for him to get revenge and fuck people up and kill people. And
remember 2 or 3 years ago when everyone was like, "Oh my God, Vincent D'Onofrio was fucking amazing as the Kingpin. Yeah. Fuck, this guy can act. I can't wait to see some of the other shit he's done, that he's going to have coming up."
Fell off the radar.
He fell off the fucking radar. Like not even fucking radar, dude. Like fell off a fucking cliff is more like it.
I'm curious what happened to him. There's something obviously happened.
He was in Chips. He was in the TV series Emerald City. He was in Rings, that another horror franchise that tried to come back. He was in The Magnificent Seven, which I actually liked his character in Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
But I mean, like
I guess he's been quietly
fire your fucking agent, man.
Yeah. I think that's probably what he needs to do.
You could be doing some better things with yourself. And then, of course, Bruce Willis, the long in the tooth actor who just hasn't gone away, despite the fact that I think he's been asked to go away at times. I know that there's rumors that he's tough to work with on set.
I'm sure
he
I mean, he doesn't do many interviews, but when you see him do interviews, you can tell
there's a reason he doesn't do interviews, Jay. He suffers from a very similar disability as yourself. He's partially deaf.
I didn't know that.
He had a gun go off in his ear while filming the very first Die Hard.
No shit.
And he's partially deaf in his ear.
One ear?
So he comes off as rude in interviews because he's constantly seeming like he's not paying attention, and he's always asking people to repeat themselves. So he doesn't do a lot of interviews because he can't hear. And it also
wow.
is now, according to his daughter, who did an interview about him, she said that attributes to a lot of his negative press about how he acts on set because he gets frustrated. He's constantly having to ask people to repeat themselves. People get frustrated with him, so he gets frustrated back. And
obviously on on a film set, there's so much direction going on around, and he can probably get frustrated, and everybody else is getting frustrated because he has to repeat things.
But if you listen to An Evening with Kevin Smith when he recounts his story of meeting Bruce Willis for the first time and then directing Bruce Willis, which was like a dream for him. He has two different stories about Bruce Willis. One is when he met Bruce Willis on the set of Live Free, Die Hard. And Bruce Willis was extremely pissed off that John McClane came over to talk to Warlock, who was played by Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, who didn't get out of his computer chair. Right. And he said, why would John McClane go over to this fat fuck? Why wouldn't this fat fuck get up and come over to John McClane? He's like, John McClane doesn't go over to anybody. That was Bruce Willis's mindset on it. And then the director,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, and then the director like corrected him and is just like, no, that's Warlock's characterization. He doesn't leave the chair. That's why we got a fat guy playing him, because the fat guy doesn't leave the chair. And he goes, you know what? It's your movie. I'll do whatever you want. And then apparently he refused to go over to him. So he was shouting at Kevin Smith from across the set.
I think that's what it was in the movie too, wasn't it?
And then the other story is Kevin Smith having his first scene in Cop Out, directing Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis asked him, "Oh, what kind of lens are you using? What kind of filter are you using on that lens? What are you doing?" Right? And he's like, "I don't." And Kevin Smith's like, "I don't know. I'm just fucking filming the scene." He's like, "I really don't care what lens I'm using. I write dialogue and then I shoot a scene of people talking. That's generally what I like to do." And then he's like, all right, yeah, whatever, your movie. And then films the scene and then pulls Kevin aside and apparently tells Kevin Smith that, listen, don't ever fucking tell someone you don't know what the fuck you're doing on a movie set. And like, gave him like this.
That's good advice.
Gave him like a speech. He also chastised him a little bit for being a fucking amateur and not a professional and stuff like that. And here's Kevin Smith.
Rightfully so, in a way. I mean, you know, directors should know.
Kevin Smith, like I met my hero twice. I met one of my heroes twice, and he was a dick both times.
Oh god.
So that's enough of that.
It sounds about right, though.
This film, like the way the trailer starts, it starts exactly like Jigsaw. It's panning over a cityscape. In this case, it's Chicago, and Sway is on the radio.
Yeah, he makes a lot, and big appearance in this trailer already.
Former MTV VJ Sway.
Well, he does have a popular radio show.
Oh yeah, he absolutely
that is
does.
True. Yeah,
yeah, syndicated in many different markets and stuff like that. And they're talking about the Grim Reaper, this man in a hoodie, And then, according to one witness by police, he looked like a white dude, you know, in a hoodie who stops a carjacking by laying in front of the car and shooting into the windshield and killing the carjacker.
Yeah.
So they're already setting you up with he goes too far.
Maybe.
Which
just a little.
Death Wish was the same way. You know, it was that B action movie that was just about, you know, killing. But I think in this light, it's not like it's paying homage. It's almost like it seems like a parody of itself. Because and the two tones of this trailer are so different. Like the trailer starts off one way, and like it seems like they're setting up this almost like John Wick type story, right?
Yeah, no,
where it's like he's going out for revenge against the people who killed his family, and then along the way he's going to learn that
it could have been a movie like that. Right. It really could have.
And then he's going to learn that there's other people that need his help and stuff like that. But it's not like he's some trained killer. He's apparently some sort of amateur, because they have a scene where he goes in, he's like, I need to buy a gun. And like apparently he becomes a professional with that gun.
I wonder if Eli Roth sold Bruce Willis on that. I'm going to make you the next John Wick. I got the perfect role for you.
Yeah.
And then he shows up on set and he's another Kevin Smith. It's like, this fucking amateur, I got roped in it again.
But then like
because you could tell he's not acting, like he's just going through the motions.
Oh my God. And he looks old now. Like he just looks old.
It doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right on screen.
And then there's an entire tonal shift, and it's punctuated by AC/DC Back in Black. And it's a complete, and then that's the moment that it starts becoming a parody of itself and of the original. And they have that awful scene where
the tone just disrespects the whole point of the story, the whole plot line. The whole reason of what he's doing, you know? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
It felt like they were trying to do 80s action one-liners, but they seem so forced that it's just not working. He's interrogating a guy, and the guy's laying under the car, and he's like, please don't kill me. He says, I'm not going to kill you. Jack's going to kill you. And he pulls the car jack out from under it and drops the car on top of the guy.
But that's not even the worst one.
The best part was
the one at the very end.
Girl. When we saw this before seeing it, when that happened, I went, so bad. And Lauren's like, shh. It's so bad. Why is this on the screen? Why is this a thing that's happening? Why is Eli Roth writing and directing a film again?
I have no idea.
Why is this happening?
Why? I don't know. I don't know.
This is a film I definitely will not see. I just won't. I'm just not gonna fucking see it.
You can't. I don't think you could sit through it. It'd be hard.
I don't think so either.
It'd be hard to sit through. It really would.
I mean, Bruce Willis. I used to love the guy. I loved the guy, and I would even say like
he's beyond Brett Favre right now. He just doesn't know when to retire. Like he just can't stop. I mean, it's just one of those things where he's been tapped out in the acting world for a long time now. Every once in a while he grows out his hair or his toupee, and it just doesn't work.
It's just been a long time since he's seemed really relevant.
Yeah, and we're seeing him act like he cares. Being in a movie, like he doesn't put any effort. He's just there. He's just getting his paycheck and moving on.
I feel like the same. So yeah, this film, definitely not seeing this shit. Not seeing it. Not even gonna wait for home video. I'm just never gonna watch it.
But
just never
have another good trailer.
That's right. So we have the Blade Runner 2049.
I thought you might be able to help me with the case. Any idea where I could find him?
You police plan on taking me in?
I would much prefer that to the alternative. I had the lock, and he has the key. I think I found him.
That's not possible. If this gets out, we've bought ourselves a war.
You're a cop. I did your job once.
Things were simpler then.
What do you want?
I want to ask you some questions. What happened?
I covered my tracks. Scrambled the records. We were being hunted.
By who?
I know you're here. The future of the species
is finally unearthed.
So this is probably the final story trailer that we're going to get. We'll get the character pieces in TV spots and stuff like that, but this is really the last bit of new footage that we're probably going to see for it. And I am more psyched for this movie now after seeing this trailer. I was not so hot on trailer 2. Obviously, trailer 1 was just a teaser trailer. That was just, I enjoyed the visuals in that, but I wasn't quite sold on anything yet. The visuals are selling me, and the stories are selling me. I'm kind of going with it. I'm really loving the different progressions you're looking at on Gosling's face. Like he's clean at one point in whatever in whatever precinct he's in or whatever police office.
Well, earlier trailers, the bloody face, it didn't match well with what they were saying on the the voiceover work.
And then he gets a dirty. His face gets dirty. Then his face gets
like
bloody.
A broken nose,
and then finally, we get the look. His nose is broken. His face is bruised and it's bleeding. And the way it looks, like the way the trailer starts off, you almost feel like Dave Bautista, who appears in the very first segment of this trailer, is like the first replicant that he goes after, and he gets his ass beat, and we're gonna have to look at that messed up mug of a face for the whole rest of the film.
Chinatown, like Jack Nicholson. But either way, I think it's showing that first of all, this is 2049. As you guys remember and I hope you remember, go revisit Blade Runner, the final cut, before this movie comes out. So, from what I hear also is that they're staying in this world. So Pan Am is going to be still in this movie, I heard. And also different kind of companies that are
in this
long
trailer.
Gone.
It's in this trailer. You can see a Pan Am neon sign.
Right. So I like that. I like that. So
there's still an Atari sign, just like there was in the original one.
So it is going to be more in the future, obviously, but not like crazy. Obviously, 30 years. And so we're going to see some developments, but there are going to be a lot of throwbacks, and the world is falling apart. As far as like the weather, the weather is a big issue,
right?
I don't know if there's any daylight or there's climate change issues throughout the movie trailer.
That's all stuff that we talked about before. Let's talk about what's new here.
Okay,
what's new here is this trailer seems more so than any other one to allude to the fact that Deckard is a replicant.
Yes, and I can get behind that, and it makes sense now more in my head as far as what they show us with the plot and the storyline,
right,
and how things are going about. it makes sense. You know, Jared Leto's villain, you know, he's a replicant master maker of sorts. He's a blind man.
And we know that Ryan Gosling is being hunted by a replicant as well. So Jared Leto is sending out replicants to hunt down the Blade Runners now.
Right. Because, you know, he says, I have the lock, but he has the key.
Right. And I think
we think that Deckard is the key. So that's our theory. And that makes sense.
Unless the girl is the key and she's the perfect replicant that got away.
It's possible. You know, it's hard to say. I mean, it's one of those mysteries. You know, everything is very tight-lipped.
I 100% expect this film to end with still some question marks. I don't think.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not even sure we're 100% going to find out whether Deckard is still a replicant.
That's
or
possible.
Not.
That is possible. He might not. This might be a rare movie. He might not die. Harrison Ford might not die in.
Yeah, he's gonna die. He's gonna die 100%.
He should.
I honestly think his screen time is gonna be like 20 minutes.
No, he doesn't show up until the end of the movie. Anyway,
yeah,
I think.
I don't think
for
he's
the most
gonna.
part.
I don't think he's gonna be in it very much. I think he will die. I think, you know, his Ryan Gosling's tale is meant to mirror his tale from the first one in a way and maybe he'll learn from Harrison Ford's mistakes and then go on to make all new mistakes for the possible sequel, Blade Runner 2051 or 20 whatever.
Yeah, and you know, as far as what it looks like, hopefully they will do another follow up, but again, maybe 30 years from now. Yeah.
Now that
that'd be cool for us as we get old.
Now that it has come out, like Blade Runner 2049 is the last thing I'm really looking forward to until I think Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I don't know. I would have to look through
there's
the upcoming slates of stuff, but like there are things out there that I'm interested in. But as far as like really excited, like I'm seeing, you know, Thursday night.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
Showing Blade Runner is the next one.
Yeah.
You know, I saw it, you know, you see Blade Runner, and yeah, obviously, you know, The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I'm right there with
Well, we
you.
got Thor.
Yeah,
but
Thor will be
I'm
a
not crazy excited about Thor. Like I don't need to go out on Thursday
Thor
night to see
will
it.
100% be a Thursday night movie for me. I'm really excited for Thor too. I completely forgot about it, but November, yeah, I will definitely be there to see Thor. But I mean, from it until a month, there's not a whole lot I'm looking forward to. One of the things I did find interesting in this trailer was when Harrison Ford's character Deckard is saying, you know, they hunted us, like, but you don't know, like, did the Blade Runners hunt them, or was Jared Leto and the replicants hunting them?
And I'm pretty sure he's implying Rachel, you know, the girl that he runs off with at the very end of the movie,
right?
The replicant, who is a confirmed replicant, but you know, is Harrison one as well? I don't know. And she's not in the trailers, so I think it's pretty safe to say that he is by himself.
There's going to be one of those. This is going to be one of those ones where you're going to have to see Blade Runner before watching this to get all of the little Deckard drops, and then you're also probably going to want to rewatch this one a few times after it's come out.
But I really feel like though this is going to be another. It's very similar to Blade Runner. You know, not too much dialogue. You know, it's going to be very moody. It's a very languid kind of like visual feast of an experience.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. So that's going to do it for Super Movie Brothers tonight. I have been your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I've been your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
If you want to comment on any of the news stories we talked about this week, or you want to comment on any of the trailers that we talked about, you want to throw in some tidbits that we missed from Blade Runner 2049, if you're actually excited for Jigsaw or excited for Death Wish, reach out to us on Twitter at Super Movie Pod. Drop us a line on there. Happy to talk about anything with you guys. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, Super Movie Bros Podcast on there. If you want to enter yourself in to win our Funko Pop vinyl Star Wars giveaway for Naked C-3PO and R5-D4, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and then screenshot it and email it to supermoviebrospodcast@gmail.com. We're running out of time. This is only running until September 20th, so make sure you get those in as soon as you can. And then if you haven't checked it out, go to our feed and check out our review for it from this week. You can also check us out on our Podfix network, www.podfixnetwork.com. There you can find us and all the other great Podfix shows. We just added Gravity Beard onto it, so we're still growing. We're still adding pods as we go along. And then also our fantasy football draft is up live, so you can just search Podfix on any podcatcher and you're going to find that fantasy draft podcast that we are doing. There will be a new fantasy football podcast every week during the regular season of football. Jay, Untapped?
Yeah, go check us out on Untapped, Super Movie bros, and hit us up. Let us know what you're drinking. Let us know what you think of the beers. What kind of ratings that we're giving the beers, and how you view certain beers, and argue with us. I don't care. If you like this, shitty Yuengling Oktoberfest, defend it, man.
So thanks a lot for listening. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers.